TAGNBRAG Nation and Rocky fam, welcome back to another episode of Food Plot Chronicles. Now last week you saw us architect and concoct the Ponderosa. That Ponderosa is something special, ain't it? How many big bucks could you take out of just one field? I'm telling you what, just thinking about hunting that field has my loins burning hotter than Mount Vesuvius on an eruption day. Now this week we got a little something special in store for y'all. We're actually not talking about planting food plots at all, but we are still talking about food for the deer. Dino is the mastermind at all things land, woods, field, and earth. And this kid's up to something again. I didn't know he was so knowledgeable about this stuff, honestly, until this week. But he pulled a fast one, and we are gonna be talking about apples. Apples? Apples. Turkey's running. You know, everywhere in the country has a native fruit or nut-bearing tree that the animals love to feast on. And it just so happens that up here on our land in New York, that is, you guessed it, apples. The importance of these apple trees is huge when it comes to the fall harvest season. And quite honestly, the apples may be the most important food on our entire property. So Dino's gonna take you on a little journey on how to prune and maintain these apple trees so that we can get the most out of them, and so can the deer come this fall. I don't even know what to say anymore. This kid's a land management wizard. Let's just roll it. Get to the field. Where's Dino at? One of our main food plots here in New York, and I'm doing a little experiment this year. I'm gonna trim up a couple of our apple trees to try to generate just some better growth, maybe better apples. The last couple of years, these trees have been dropping apples in like August. I think there's just too much going on. They need to be thinned out a little bit. A lot of the weight drops the apples early. We want these things to be dropping in October, even into November, to keep the deer here longer. While they have other food besides apples, you know, in August and September. So we want these things to hold as long as they can, just grow big healthy apples. So I'm just gonna clean them up a little bit and see what they do. I hope it works. We have 4 apple trees in here. These are just those little thorn apple, crab apple trees. I'd like to actually take those out in the future, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4 apple trees. We're just gonna prune them up a little bit here, and we'll see what they do in the springtime. You don't want to prune more than 25% of the tree per year, so I'm not gonna go crazy with it. But this one in particular, look how thick it is in there. There's just so many sprouts coming up in this tree. It needs airflow in there, air and sunlight into the middle of the tree to produce the best stuff. At least that's what I've read. So that's going to be kind of my goal, is just to thin them out a little bit. The branch structures on these 2 trees look really good, actually. So might try to take a little bit off the top and then just open up some air pockets in the middle, and we'll see what they do. Ladies and gentlemen, we got another episode of Food Plot Chronicles coming at you. But this week we're talking about a little bit something a little bit different. It's tree plots. Don't always overlook things like that. It's not always about what you're growing out of the ground, what you're tilling up and planting and growing out of the ground. Well, apple trees here are grown out of the ground, but don't overlook what's coming down from the trees. In a lot of areas, most areas, there's something native that the deer target heavily during the harvest season, during the hunting season. And in this particular area, it's apples, which we are blessed to have them. They are so attractive to deer. It's an incredible fruit, and it provides food from some apple trees drop in August all the way through December. So it provides food throughout the entire hunting season, and it's not only provides food, but it's an incredible source of food. So we happen to have a ton of them on this property. And if you don't maintain them, if you let them overgrow or you let things grow up around them, they stop producing. And with a little bit of love every year, you can get these apple trees that just produce lots and lots of apples, lots and lots of food every year. And you just got to prune them a little bit. And a year and a half ago, I went through and I pruned about 20, maybe 30 of our biggest apple trees. It took a lot of time, but It's not really rocket science. You want to do basically two things when you're pruning an apple tree. You want airflow to go through the tree, and you want as much sunlight on the tree, in the tree, throughout the day as you possibly can. So if you got aspen trees or beech trees growing up, maybe around your apple trees, you might want to give them a little cutback. Other than that, it's airflow. They love airflow. That's why a lot of times when you're driving on the road, you see apple trees that are on the side of the road that are just loaded with apples. It's because they have constant airflow from vehicles pushing the wind. But look at this. You couldn't see through this tree a year and a half ago. There were so many sprouts coming out of here and so many limbs everywhere. I cleaned it out. Airflow can get through this whole tree. Cleaned out all the dead branches and all the sprouts that are going up. And look at the apples on this thing. It is absolutely loaded. And literally every single tree that I pruned is produced so many apples this year. And it's going to be so effective during the season because we can hunt on them and you can put trail cameras on them. See deer that you want to see, they're going to hit those apple trees and they're going to target the apples as a food source. They will go to apples most of the time before they will go to anything that you plant out of the ground. So very important to target that. You know, some areas it might be white oak trees and those are maybe a little bit harder to maintain, but you can maintain what's around them. Some it's maybe persimmons down south. Whatever it is that you know is in the area and the deer target, make sure you take care of it and let it flourish. The native stuff is just as good. Look at these apple trees. I took care of that one. You can tell how nice it is. Got branches coming out. You can see through the tree. Look at this thing. Incredible, the amount of apples. Just from taking maybe a week or two, a couple hours a day, and just go boop, 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 prune them out a little bit. And these trees are all out in the open. They get a lot of sunlight. I want to show you what happens when you get apple trees that are in overgrown timbered areas. Very nice and sunny out here. Let's go into the timber. We're in the timber. You can tell, number one, as I'm walking, it's darker in here. You can just see that right from the camera, right off the bat. Look at how tall the canopy is in here. There's a ton of apple trees in here, but these aspen trees are such fast growers that they've taken over this woods. And we have plans in the next 3 years, 5 years, to come in and start managing a lot of the trees in here and try to open up sunlight back to these apple trees. But I just want to show you what happens to them if you don't maintain them or maintain what's around them. Look at this apple tree. It's still alive, but it ain't looking too good. And there's about 12 apples on it. You can just see from where I was previously standing out where we pruned our apple trees that they're flourishing now. There's just no sunlight hitting this floor. These trees are growing way up too tall and they're growing past these apple trees. Like, this is a great apple tree, and it does have some apples on it way on the top, but it's got to grow straight up in order to get that sunlight that it needs to produce. And it's trying to, but if we came in here and did some TSI on what's around it, you could revive these apple trees. They're just all over the place. I mean, that apple tree almost goes straight up all the way to the canopy because it's trying so hard to compete and get its sunlight. So you target some of these areas and you can do some TSI, open them up, open up the sunlight to create more for these apple trees, and then you create some cover along the way. So boom, you got a double-edged sword right there, cover and food. But the main point here is, it is so important to target and take care of what's already on your property. You can start there before you even go to implementing food plots, because those are food plots. They're just dropping from the trees, but just as important and just as attractive for deer, especially during the hunting season. Don't overlook it. Take care of your lumber. Take care of your nut and fruit providing trees.
I said it before, and I'll say it again. This kid's a wop genius. Even I learned a little something in this week's episode of Food Plot Chronicles. I mean, obviously, plants need sunlight in order to flourish. Some more than others. But airflow in between all the branches makes apples pop off the trees like we are in the Chronicles of Narnia? Who would have thought? I'll tell you what, Dino needs a sponsorship from Manscaped after that one. He trims one heck of a good bush. It is amazing the work that he was able to do on these apple trees and to see how much of a difference it made. This is gonna be so valuable when it gets closer to season and these apples start falling. Number one, these apple trees, especially when they look like that, create an amazing checkpoint for the deer. These apple trees also provide amazing trail camera locations. It's just another thing to think about when you are trying to manage your land on a budget. Maybe you don't have to plant food plots at all. Maybe the food is already there. After all, this is God's country. He put that fruit or them nuts there for a reason. Might as well make use of them. Sometimes I feel like we almost make it harder on ourselves when just a little simple prune here or there could make the natural browse flourish and in turn make your hunting efforts even better. Next week, we are going to be planting fall food plots. We're going to be planting a couple different blends from Whitetail Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for watching this week's episode of Food Plot Chronicles. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will see y'all right back here next week on another episode of Food Plot Chronicles. Your boy is standing out here in the rain. It's rain or shine around here. Food Plot Chronicles doesn't just produce itself, and we certainly ain't worried about getting a little wet. Rain delay my ass. I mean, kids these days can't even go outside playing the rain. Hell, when I was your age, I was running around in the mud, no shoes on, sometimes no shirt on. Hell, I could sit out here and get wet all day long and be totally fine with it. I got more work to do. See you next week.